I never imagined my life would unravel so quickly. The ink on our marriage license was barely dry when I destroyed everything. The wedding bands we exchanged just days ago still gleam on my finger, mocking me with a promise I couldn't keep. What should have been the most blissful beginning of my life turned into the kind of tragedy people whisper about behind closed doors. It wasn't supposed to be this way. James was the kind of man you build a future with. Dependable, thoughtful, patient to a fault. He was the man who remembered the little things, my favorite coffee order, the exact way I liked my pasta cooked, the song that always calmed me down when I was stressed. My friends often said he was the perfect catch, the sort of women spent their whole lives hoping to find. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't reckless, but he loved me in a way that was deep and unwavering. When he proposed, my answer was immediate. Of course I wanted a life with him. I wanted the house, the family, the stability. But somewhere deep inside, a small part of me wondered if I was settling for safe instead of passionate. I ignored that whisper, because love is supposed to be about more than butterflies. Love is supposed to be about building something steady. That's what I told myself. The wedding was beautiful. A picturesque ceremony in a garden filled with flowers, sunlight streaming through the trees, my family crying happy tears as I walked down the aisle. James's eyes never left mine, and in that moment, I was sure I had made the right choice. His vows were heartfelt, his hand steady as he slipped the ring onto my finger. Our reception was filled with laughter, music, and dancing until the early hours of the morning. Everyone said we looked like a couple out of a movie. I wanted to believe it. Our honeymoon in Greece was supposed to be the start of our forever. James planned it all with meticulous care. Flights, hotels, excursions, even little surprises like handwritten notes he'd leave for me in the hotel room. The first tastes were perfect. We toured ancient ruins, wandered cobblestone streets hand in hand, kissed under sunsets so breathtaking they didn't feel real. At night, he'd hold me close and whisper about the future we'd build. He was radiant with joy, proud to finally call me his wife. But the truth is, I wasn't content. Somewhere between the candlelit dinners and romantic walks, I felt the gnawing sense that something was missing. James was wonderful, but he was predictable. His love was steady, but it didn't ignite me. I hated myself for thinking it, but the more he adored me, the more I craved a different kind of rush. That craving took form in Damon. I met him at the resort pool bar. James had gone to the room to grab sunscreen, and I found myself sitting alone when Damon struck up a conversation. He was charismatic, confident in a way James never was. His smile was dangerous, the kind that made you feel seen in a way that went beyond polite attention. When James returned, Damon didn't shy away. He winked at me as he left, a spark that lit something reckless inside me. It should have ended there. I was married. I should have brushed it off, laughed about it later with James. But I didn't. The next morning, while James went jogging, I walked down to the beach and happened to run into Damon. We talked for hours, our conversations filled with flirtation I should have stopped. Instead, I fed into it. By the third day, it wasn't just chance meetings. I was seeking him out. It felt intoxicating, the thrill of secrecy, the heat in Damon's eyes when he looked at me. Compared to James's quiet devotion, Damon was fire. He made me feel daring, desired in a way that terrified and thrilled me. I told myself that it was harmless, that it was just flirting. But deep down, I knew I was balancing on the edge of something catastrophic. The night I crossed the line, James had arranged a private dinner on the beach. Candles, wine, the sound of the waves lapping gently at the shore. It should have been unforgettable, and it was, but not for the reason he intended. Earlier that day, Damon slipped me a note. Meet me tonight by the cliffs. I stared at the note for hours, torn between the husband who had given me the world and the man who tempted me with danger. James came into the room that evening, smiling, excited for our dinner. I told him I wasn't feeling well, that I needed to rest. The worry in his eyes nearly broke me, but I still let him leave, alone. And then, like the selfish woman I was, I went to Damon. What happened by the clips was a blur of heat and passion. A kiss became a touch became a night I will never erase. For a few hours, I let myself pretend I wasn't married. I let myself forget James existed. But the illusion shattered the moment I walked into our suite. James had returned from dinner with food for me, thinking of me even as I lied to him. He had set the plates on the table, a little candle flickering between them, but he had fallen asleep on the bed waiting for me. My chest ached when I looked at him, this man who loved me so deeply while I had betrayed him so easily. I told myself it would be just one mistake, that I would bury it, move forward, and no one would ever know. But secrets like that never stay buried. A few days later, James found the messages. Damon, arrogant and careless, had texted me, gloating about our night together. He picked up my phone to check the time and saw everything. I'll never forget his face. The confusion as he scrolled, the disbelief, and the hurt that followed. Emily, tell me this isn't real. His voice cracked, his hands trembling as he held my phone out to me. I tried to explain, to say it meant nothing, that it was a mistake. I begged him to forgive me. But how could he? On our honeymoon, the week we promised forever, I choose someone else. James didn't yell, he didn't scream. He just went quiet. And that silence was devastating. He packed his things methodically, refusing to look at me as I sobbed and clung to him. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. On our honeymoon, Emily, you couldn't even give me a week. And then he was gone. He changed his flight, left me in Greece with my shame and my guilt. I spent the rest of the trip alone, sitting in the suite that felt like a prison. My phone buzzed endlessly, friends and family asking for photos, asking how marriage life felt. I couldn't answer. How could I explain that I had destroyed everything before it even began? When I returned home, James wasn't there. He had moved back in with his parents. His family refused to speak to me. My parents were heartbroken, ashamed of what I had done. Friends who once envied my relationship now avoided me, whispering about how I had ruined my marriage before it even started. James never answered my calls again. The divorce papers arrived less than 2 months later. He didn't fight or argue. He just wanted to be free of me, and who could blame him? Now I'm left with memories I can't escape. Our wedding photos sit in a box I can't bear to open. The dress I once felt beautiful in now hangs like a ghost in my closet. And every time I close my eyes, I see his face that night. The moment he realized the woman he trusted most had betrayed him. The honeymoon was supposed to be the happiest chapter of our lives. Instead, it was the disaster that ended everything. And I know no matter how much time passes, I'll never forgive myself for trading forever for one reckless night.